Hey everyone, this is Christopher Landon, the director of Scream 7, and you're watching Craven Something Scary.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Well, guys, here we are on the 30th of October. It is Halloween Eve, and it's hard to believe the month is almost over as we've been celebrating really since the end of September, actually. But here we are at the end of the month, and let me just tell you, I believe we have definitely saved the best for last, guys, because tonight we're going to have a very special guest joining in just a moment. And he is the director of many things, actually, a very incredible career for 40 plus years. And we'll get into some of that tonight. But we're going to spend a lot of time focused on one particular film. And it's one of my personal favorites of the entire franchise of Halloween. And you guys know that, who've been here this month doing Halloween Fest. But it is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And so we're going to spend a lot of time talking about that tonight and getting some, I believe, new and fresh insight for us here from Dwight H. Little, the director of the film. So, guys, he has agreed to come on and spend a whole hour with us. So, before I get him on here, because I don't want to, waste any time. But I will say this: do send your questions in for Dwight as you have them. Feel free to send those in at any time. I will get to those periodically as we are discussing different things, and certainly I'll get to as many as possible. But as you know, because of time and volume, there's never enough time to get to all of your questions. It's just how it works out. So don't take that personal if we don't get to yours. But I will say this, you also have the option of sending a super chat, and that will move you to the front of the line above everyone else. And I'll make sure that we get that on the screen so Dwight can address your specific comment or question. So you have that option to do should you choose to do so, okay? All right, guys, having said all of that, this is very exciting. I know you guys are pumped up as much as I am. We've been talking about it for a little while. Please welcome the director of many things, but especially Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, Dwight H. Little. Welcome, Dwight.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's fun.
Oh, listen, it's completely my pleasure, and it's my honor, and we all, speaking for myself and the community, we all thank you for making this time to come spend with us tonight. This is great.
That's great. Well, it is, as you said, it's Halloween Eve.
It is Halloween Eve. It's like, oh my gosh, this is just perfect. Couldn't be any more perfect than this. So Dwight, I know our time is limited, but thank you for being so generous to stay an hour with us. That's amazing. And so I'll just get right into it, because one of the things I always like to ask, it's fascinating to me, is kind of to find out how everything started for you, like winding the clock back. And at what point in your life did you know you wanted to be a filmmaker? This was your passion that you were going to pursue.
Well, I was an early bird. I got to tell you, it was 8th grade, and I was given a little Super 8 camera. You know, you put the cartridge in. It was like they call it. It was an Instamatic camera, and 50-foot load, and you could shoot about 2.5 minutes on Super 8. And the fun thing was, you took the cartridge to what I guess we called the drugstore. I guess it's the pharmacy now. And then you'd have to wait 2 or 3 days, maybe more, to get the cartridge back as a spool of film. Then you could project it on the wall of your room. It was literally magic. So when you would get your roll of film back, maybe you were shooting the dog or your brother or who knows what you were shooting, and then you projected on the wall, it was magic. And so I was hooked early on.
Oh, that's awesome. And and it just grew and grew from there, right? Just one step,
Yeah,
up
I won a
to the
couple
next.
awards in high school. I won a couple awards,
Wow.
and I did a period Civil War movie, meaning my
Mhm.
friends dressed up, and we got second place to a sci-fi alien invasion movie. And I thought, okay, well, I should have read the writing on the wall right then that a period drama is always going to lose to an alien invasion.
That's right. I love that.
So then
Well,
I did get
yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to go to USC Film School. So
Ooh,
I am a film school brat.
wonderful. Wow, that's fantastic. So, that's really cool to hear. Because some people they don't really understand or get that clarity until much later in life,
I
right?
was lucky. I was very lucky to have
Yeah.
a point of view, and I was going after something, and I have to
Mhm.
say I was turned down by a lot of major film schools, and then ironically, the one I got into was one of the best, so it worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Heck yeah. Real quick, just want to say hello to Denisha in the chat. This is her 18-month anniversary of being a Cravenite here, supporter of the channel member. Thank you, Denisha. She says, as a moderator, it's been amazing 18 months. And Mr. Dwight, I love Halloween 4. It's my favorite movie. Craven, many more milestones, buddy. Thank you, Denisha. Well, that's her favorite movie, Dwight. So a
Well,
lot of love here.
there's something that has gotten to people about this movie, and I really
Mhm.
credit it to the relationship between the sisters,
Mhm.
um, between Danielle and Ellie Cornell, or
Yes.
Rachel and Jamie, I guess we could say,
Hmm.
because they created this foundation, and all around them there was Michael and Dr. Loomis and Sheriff Meeker, and but
Hmm.
the girls just in both in on set and as characters they bonded, and I think people when they say they love the movie, part of it is they love those sisters.
That's so true. I think you're 100% correct because there's such a it almost feels like like it's a bond there. Even on screen, you feel that connection between the two of them.
Well, of
And
course, Rachel doesn't want to be bothered by her little pesky, she's
right.
got a date with her boyfriend with Brady, and it's all annoying. But she takes on this protective big
Hmm.
sister role, and once she does, she's really ferocious about it.
Very much, yeah. You see her turn into that protective mode, and it's awesome. Really, it's really cool to see that dynamic in the film.
But what great young actors! I mean, you know,
Oh.
Daniel Harris, just hitting it out of the park. Ellie Cornell coming in and playing a
Mhm.
fresh take on the final girl,
That's
a little,
right.
a little vulnerable, a little hurt, a little bit shy, but when the moment comes, she just steps up.
Yes. Oh, yes. In a big way. And in fact, kind of getting into to Halloween 4, we can kind of jump into there because and just kind of rewinding a bit. Halloween 3 came out in October of 82, and much to the shock of many, there's no no Michael Myers in the movie, and a lot of people were not ready for that. Like, where's Michael? Like, when's he going to pop up? And then the franchise goes into hibernation, basically, right, for 6 years, and it was starting to feel like we were never going to see another Halloween movie until 1988 rolls around and Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. And I love the subtitle because you're letting folks know right up front.
Just get right to it.
That's
So
right.
the brainchild behind all this is,
Mhm.
Mustafa Akkad, who,
Yes.
who who realized that when three Season of the Witch came out,
Hmm.
that the audience was not prepared,
Right.
and they just wanted Michael back. I mean, that's just the fact. But
Mhm.
they were stuck a little bit because Michael had been blown up, and Dr. Loomis had been blown up at the end of two,
Mhm.
and so this is a problem. and my writing partner Alan McElroy and I were sort of tasked with figuring out how to get Michael back. And that
Mhm.
was a challenge, but I think we did it convincingly by saying, that he was in a coma, There's a shot, a very interesting shot, where the guard at the criminal insane asylum takes the two EMT workers into an elevator. And in that elevator ride, as they go from the level where all the just normal crazies are, they go down into where the really criminally insane are. In that elevator ride, we lay the whole thing out in one elevator ride. What happened at the end of 2, where Michael has been, how he came to this sanitarium. By the time the elevator doors open, we're ready to go.
That's right.
So that was it.
Yep.
We just decided, you know what? Let's not just dabble out all the exposition in pieces. Let's just do it, get it out of the way, and then, you know, the actor Pataki to also tell us a little bit more. But really, we're ready to go. And it was very efficient storytelling, and Alan McElroy did a wonderful job with that.
Yes. Oh, yes. And that elevator scene, it really does. It's all explained. And by the time you get in there where they're doing the vital signs, you understand what's going on. It's like everything's, you know, cool. And then the other smart thing I thought was how when we see Michael prior to Vincent's drugstore, when he gets the mask, he's bandaged. And I love the fact that you decided to do that, so that he's covered up, he's bandaged up. So it reminds us that he was disfigured. He was burned.
Well, also remember, we had to rebuild Michael pretty much. We had to find the overalls.
Right. That's
so
right.
Of course we had to get them from the mechanic in the body shop or in the gas station. We had to take down the telephone lines into Haddonfield. So with that truck, we blew up the gas pump and took out the telephone lines.
That's right.
Then, of course, we had to get Dr. Loomis there. So he had to hitchhike, where he meets the great Reverend Sayer.
Oh, he was so good.
Who was one of the great movie character actors ever.
Yes.
You know, I'm hunting him and all that. And then we had to get the mask back. And so we had to steal the mask because now, you know, he'd become kind of a thing in the town. And the reason people say, well, why is the mask so different, is because it was a commercial mask.
That's right.
You would buy it at a drugstore. And that's why it does, in fact, look a little different. Now, it's not as cool as the later Michael masks, but I think it was authentic to what we were trying to do.
Yes, and that's the thing I've always said. Like when we watch the movie, and I've watched the movie with different people and stuff, and they're like, well, why isn't the original mask there? I'm like, well, that's all the store had. He's literally getting it in
selling. That's what they were selling.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. I mean, there it is.
So I didn't want him to be making one in his basement or
right.
You know, it's like we didn't want a scene of Michael rebuilding his mask. He just steals it.
That's it. That's exactly right.
Of course, Jamie's there. You know, and Jamie's been having these premonitions of her uncle coming together. There's been 2 premonitions, nightmares. But then when she's in the drugstore and he's in the mirror, he really is there.
Yes, that's right. It's like this back and forth between real and what's in her head and what's really there, and that goes on.
This time he's there.
This time he's there. Yes. Now let me ask you this, Dwight. How did the opportunity come about for you to direct Halloween 4? Like, I would love to hear the story behind that.
Well, after film school, I had the opportunity to work with some of, I guess what you call the old school B movie producers. Some of these names like Sam Arkoff and Sandy Howard and Nico Mastarakis, and they were, you know, kind of one-man band B movie producers, and they made a lot of movies. And I had made a couple of those. And one of them I had shot in India. And it turned out that Mustafa Khan, it's kind of a long story, but I'll go quickly. Mustafa Khan was a director of considerable reputation himself. He had done Lion of the Desert with Anthony Quinn and several very broad canvas movies. So he was a director. And he was thinking about maybe doing something in India. and he had seen a reel of mine that talked about shooting. I think he was very curious about me because I just shot in India, and it
Okay.
gave me an opportunity to meet him. And they had given me before the meeting all these treatments and outlines and everything, and that had been done by various writers, and I just didn't like any of them, and I said respectfully, I said, if I were to do this, I don't want to use any of this. I'm not interested in any of these approaches to the material. And everybody in the room was pretty shocked because, it kind of takes a lot of, I don't know, chutzpah to go in
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
and tell them what they don't want to hear. So they said, well, what do you want to do? And then I had been talking to Alan. I really pitched them Halloween 4 in the room, pretty much, including the ending.
Oh, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
That's man.
Yeah.
Yes.
I pitched them the film and they were shocked. And they said, well, okay, well, thank you for coming in. We'll get back to you. And I thought, well, okay, I think that may be the end of that. But then a few days later, they called and said, we're interested, but we can't possibly get this done in time to shoot because, they needed to get it out in October. And so we had to go very fast.
Wow. Okay. My goodness. But that, it just goes to show, you stuck your neck out there a little bit. And
I did.
You did, and it paid off, though. It really
did because I really knew what I wanted to do. I really had this police procedural in mind, and Alan and I had worked it out, and I wanted to make it very logical, right? So that's the whole thing. He was in a coma. He's wrapped in bandages. He's a burn victim. He breaks out of the ambulance when he hears the name of his niece. He gets the overalls, he gets the mask, and where does he go? He's on the hunt to her house. But first he's got to take the power out. So he's got to put Bucky in the
Bucky. I love Bucky, man. I love the big name on his helmet. It's like
he's great. Perfect. By the way, there was a maze at Universal Studios, a Halloween 4 maze. And they actually recreated the death of Bucky, which was fantastic.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I love the line when he looks at Michael and he's like, don't give me that Halloween blank. I'm like,
try that with me.
Yeah, that's right with me.
Which I repeated lately as a little homage in a new movie I made, but we can talk about that later.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we will we definitely will. Real quick, just had some folks wanted to say hello and just a couple of quick comments. Val, our good friend Val, the general, said when I saw the tagline was for 4, I was like, HELL, yeah, LOL. That's exactly like he's back. That's right.
We're looking for Michael.
Yes. Also, and Eduardo, I see your super chat, and I'm going to get to that later. So just want you to know the reason I haven't pulled it up yet is because I have a spot for that super chat I want to do. It flows with what questions I'm going to ask. So, Eduardo, hang tight, okay? Don't worry. I have your super chat, and I thank you. And I will get to it a little later. Just hang tight. My good friend, excuse me, my good friend Knight at the Night Watch Zone, which, Dwight, this is the individual I was talking about that I did Halloween Fest with. Him and I,
nice.
His channel. We're real good friends. We alternated movies. He said, Halloween 4 is a fantastic film, Dwight. So happy to see you here with us.
Well, thank you.
All right. Yeah, see, we are big Halloween fans. All right. And then let's see. And then here's one more question from the audience for now, but keep them coming, guys. Dice, our good friend Dice Roland says, question for Mr. Little. Aside from watching the previous films, what methods did you use to prepare for making Halloween 4?
Well, I was very particular about the casting because I knew this goes back to what we were saying earlier, that in order to make this work, that the little girl, Jamie Carruthers, and her foster sister, Rachel, were going to have to be perfect. And I looked in Los Angeles. I couldn't find Jamie. I just couldn't find her. And I went to Mustafa Akkad and I said, I want to say yes, but I can't because nothing works. He says, of
Mm.
all these actors in LA, you can't you can't find her? Like, what's the matter with you? So, but he agreed with his own money. He sent me to New York to do a casting session in New York.
Wow.
And so we did a casting session, kind of an open session in New York.
Hmm.
Danielle Harris came in. She was about the sixth one that came in.
Okay.
And I really knew, right? Before she even read, I really knew that she was it. There's something about her eyes and her poise and everything. And then when I got back to Los Angeles, there was quite a bit of discussion about who should play Rachel. And
Hmm.
Mustafa and I didn't agree, honestly. There was another actress who he preferred. And what I liked about Ellie, first of all, she didn't really have any credits, not really. She was very green, isn't the right word, but she was certainly a newcomer.
Hmm.
And she had these. I hope she's not offended, but these more Midwest. She's a beautiful woman, but more Midwestern looks. Instead of in LA, you get a lot of kind of more commercial looking girls. And
Hmm.
so I said, I'll tell you what, let's do a screen test, and we'll decide together after the screen test. So we did it on film in a soundstage with lighting and the whole thing. And I directed both actresses in scenes from the movie. And then we projected it in a theater at Raleigh Studios, a big proper theater. And we did a
Hmm.
real old fashioned Hollywood, Ava Gardner
Oh
screen
yeah.
test. Yeah. And
Yeah.
we looked at the both. And he turned to me after the screen test and he said, "You're right, it's Ellie." So
Ooh,
so,
nice.
so that's how. But I didn't make him. I didn't force him because he had been so generous with me about
Hmm.
sending me to New York. I wanted him to be on board, but he got it completely. So then, answering the question of your guest there,
Hmm.
to me, I just really was focused on so much on the cast.
Yeah.
Kathleen Kinmont was an essential piece of it. And
Mhm.
Sasha Jensen, the boyfriend, was and Bo Starr as Sheriff Meeker.
Oh yeah.
Each of these choices, I mean, I knew I had an ace in the hole with Donald, of course. I mean, one of the great,
Hmm.
excuse me, one of the great actors ever.
Oh, absolutely.
But I just wanted everybody to be able to be in a scene with Donald Pleasance and look like they could handle it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't want someone
Yes.
in a scene with Donald and look like an amateur.
That's
People
right.
people who look like they deserve to be in a movie with him.
Hmm.
So the answer is I really paid tremendous amount of attention to getting the cast just right.
Oh man, and it shows, and I think that's another reason why this sequel it ranks where it does among many in the fandom, including myself, because you can have a great story, great script, great cinematography, you can have a great score, all these things you can give right, but if that cast is not quite right, it's not gonna flow right. It's not gonna come off the right way. And Halloween 4 does. All
When
right.
you get a lovely close up of Daniel Harris, you're already a long way ahead.
Oh, what and you mentioned Danielle, and there was three uh, cast members I wanted to specifically call out and mention and chat with you about, and you mentioned Danielle already, and so that was fantastic. Because child actors, look, of course, I'm not a director, I've never made a movie, but just as a fan of watching films, you watch some films, and there are some child actors that, bless their hearts, I know they're trying, but it just doesn't come off on the camera right.
Right,
But then
right.
you have Danielle Harris, and I'm telling you, she's magic. It's like there's no camera in the room.
She's magic as an adult too. She's a terrific actress,
She
and
is.
I just cast her as a real estate mom. So that's
Yes,
how much
yes,
time has gone by. But anyway,
that's right.
but I just think also she has what I call movie eyes because
Hmm.
she has these big expressive eyes. And when you're on a 180 millimeter lens and you're right in here, and it's up on a big screen and it's like they're made for the camera. They really draw you in.
Absolutely. And the next person I have to ask you about, because he is a legend. It's Donald Pleasance is an absolute legend, and I mean, Dr. Loomis, the character, is for me a highlight of every film he's in.
Yeah, that's right.
Whether all of them, all the way through 6, his last one. So I just have to ask you, what was it like directing Donald Pleasance? When he's on set, what was that experience like?
Well, I found out early. He's a very smart man, of course, and
Mhm.
I found out early that he responded to direction, but you had to be super clear about what you wanted and know why you wanted it. You couldn't bullshit him, obviously.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
but I did notice that he was even then a little bit of an older gentleman. And
Mhm.
so about after hour 6, I noticed that he tended to fade a little bit.
Okay.
And when his energy faded, he could get a little bit grumpy, just because he was
Mhm.
tired. And so I went back to the assistant director, the AD, and I said, we need to change the schedule around. And we need to work Donald for 6.5 hours, and then let's do other things and let him go back to the hotel and get his rest and come back the next day. And when we rescheduled what they call the board, the production board, which is a schedule basically,
Mhm.
we accommodated him in a way. And of course, a lot of night shooting, so we had to be careful with that.
Yeah.
Trying to get him home by 2, 3 in the morning. Because when you get home and it's still dark out and you can still get to sleep, for some reason, it's mentally different than when you get home and it's dawn and the morning birds are already up and
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
you get up at 2 in the afternoon and you're all turned around. So I tried to get Donald home in time to go to bed, and
Mhm.
stay on a sleep pattern. Because when you're, as an older guy, it's like that made a difference. And so that being said, he was smart, he was focused, he was a complete gentleman to everybody on the cast,
Oh,
and especially the younger actors. He
uh-huh.
accommodated them, he didn't intimidate them. He tried to make it okay for the scary stuff. And so, nothing but warm, fond memories of Donald Pleasance.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good to hear. It really is. Um, and real quick, we got a couple of super chats here that I want to go to from the audience. Dr. Fantastic brings a $5 to support the channel. Thank you so much, Dr. Fantastic. Says hello. I hope you are all doing well. Keep up the great work. Loving the content. Horror films are number one. We need more good slasher films. I would agree.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I just made a little movie. Now, it's not really a slasher film. It's a little bit more of a Halloween thriller, but it has
Hmm.
a slasher component. It's called Natty Knox,
Yes.
and it's got a wonderful villain played by Bill Moseley.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's not really a gore film. It's kind
Hmm.
of a little bit more of it's in the Disturbia kind of
Hmm.
that zone, but it's super entertaining. We have a great babysitter, and we have a great storyteller in Robert England, and
Yes.
and of course the great Daniel Harris. So if you,
Yes.
it's not a full on slasher, but it's a lot of fun.
For sure. And one of the questions I was going to ask you later when we got into Natty Knox, I'll ask it now. How did that feel directing Danielle Harris as a young child, and then now she's on set as a full adult? What did that feel like for you as a director?
It was weird. I
I
got
bet.
it was really weird, and I told her all the time. I said, Daniel, this is so weird. I just want to keep calling you Jamie, and then I have to, correct. But she's so poised, and she's so grown up, and then I realized what a good actress she was. I mean, of course, I knew it, but
Mhm.
she wasn't, a little girl anymore. And she's just her instincts are good. She can
Mhm.
hold the camera, and it was a thrill. But to answer your question, it was weird. It's like Jesus, I'm that old that she's now the mom.
Oh gosh, yeah, I know. I can imagine. That's so cool, though. It really is. That's a really neat thing. Thank you, Dr. Fantastic. We appreciate that. Thanks for supporting the channel. And real quick, Sarah Campbell, our good friend and one of my moderators tonight, sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you, Sarah. Says, I know this is predominantly a Halloween 4 stream, but I wanted to show a little love to Murder at 1600. Oh, yeah. A great movie. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for that shout out, because that is kind of a favorite. And, you know, it's a good 90s Wesley Snipes movie. And I really think it delivers. I do want to remind people about, we spoke about Robert Englund, about his great performance in Phantom of the Opera. And I hope people can rediscover that movie, because he's great in it. And but anyway, thank you for the shout out for Murder at 1600.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Much appreciated. And that was a great movie. I need to go back and revisit that movie.
That holds up. That holds up pretty well.
Oh yeah, I bet it does. Because it was so well. I remember I was so impressed with it, and I really enjoyed it. But it's been a little bit. But I need to go back to that. I need to go back to see it.
The great Diane Lane and Alan Alda, these kind of legendary characters.
Yes. Now, Dwight, I'd like to ask you back to Halloween 4 for just a little bit. I'd like to ask you about another cast member who, may he rest in peace, recently passed, but it is George P. Wilbur. And I would love, because he played the Shape, for those who aren't aware, he was Michael Myers. And I would like to ask you kind of what went into your casting process? What were you looking for? Any attributes, qualities that you wanted in your Michael Myers?
I wanted the sheer size. I wanted what I called the lumber, the relentless lumbering. But we have to remember about George is that he was a super experienced professional stuntman.
Yes.
And he had been in Clint Eastwood movies. He'd been in fist fights with Clint Eastwood. I mean, he was a real Hollywood stuntman. So he knew also for camera and everything, you can't see that well from the mask, right? And he could hit his marks and he could do his action and he was very precise. And his experience on set was a huge plus. Also, he was a very gentle person, despite being this professional stuntman. And his voice and his manner was very gentle. So I knew that when you know, we were very careful that when the minute we said cut, that the mask would come off and George would talk to Danielle and say, hey, it's just me, George. You know, let's go get a, you know, a 7-Up or something. And before we rolled, he would show Danielle that it's, you know, this is just George. And then you put that mask on, it's pretty scary. You got a freaking butcher knife.
Right.
You know, then this is a young child.
Yes.
We have to be very careful. And of course, the mother is right there, and we made sure that she was comfortable. But, you know, Danielle was so precocious that she understood everything right away. And she'd get to the point where she, yes, George, I know it's you. You don't have to keep telling me. But I think it mattered. And I think that behind the mask, he moved. His body movement was what I imagined Michael would be like. It was kind of, when you see him on the rooftop scene coming over the peak of the roof, that the way he moves there in particular, when he comes up the stairs in the house, that's one of the most scary things.
It is.
He comes up those stairs, and then he just turns and he looks up at Sasha Jensen, up at Brady.
That's right.
And that is so, I don't know why, but it even freaks me out. And that's his body language. So I was very impressed with him as a person and how he was able to handle this young actor, and also how he physically moved, number 2, and number 3, years of training on set. So if you said, George, when you grab the rifle, you know, I need that 6 inches camera left because I'm just missing focus or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In the very next shot, it would be exactly 6 inches over, exactly in the
Wow.
right place. Now, I mean, I know this is filmmaker stuff. The audience doesn't care about, but
No,
you
it's
know,
interesting though.
you have to have this
Mm-hmm.
precision, or you could be there all night and not get the shot.
That's
And
right.
and people who know, it's like, now, George, I need you to be camera left, another foot and a half, and when you put your hand on the railing, I'm going to be dropping down to get a shot of that. So hold for 2.5 seconds before you move your hand. And you just tell him once,
Wow.
and he's like a machine. And
Mm.
that's years and years of experience. If you have a newcomer, that's a little, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking, now, what did that director tell me? And it's like, but that was another thing. So I also felt no one was going to get hurt, because if I said come this far and come to a dead stop, I knew
Mhm.
that that's what would happen.
Wow, that's fascinating to hear. I'm glad you shared that insight because, as we're watching the movie, those are things like you say we're not really thinking of as an audience. And
Right.
now hearing that from you, though, it really is. It's going to be even adding another dimension almost to these scenes when you see him moving. And I'm thinking of the scene where he's on the stairs, he's walking up there. Brady engages him with the shotgun, and then he shoves him to the floor. And he has the shotgun. Michael has the shotgun, and he just takes his left arm, extends it out, and just drops the shotgun to the
That was
ground.
that
And I'm
was
like, it
insane.
was
That was
awesome.
insane. Now, when Brady went into the wall, now he was all padded up.
Hmm.
Um, and I had spoken to Sasha. I said, now, George is, you're going to go, because I didn't want to do it with a stunt person. I wanted Sasha to do it, and I had good pads on his back and so forth. And
Hmm.
Sasha, he's like kind of a young man full of, yeah, no matter what he does, I don't care. Just throw me, whatever he does. And George tossed him.
He did.
And when he hit that wall, he was shaking for a minute. After we yelled cut, we all ran in to make sure. And Sasha was fine, but he was
Mhm.
surprised.
I wasn't
He,
expecting that.
he was expecting a movie push,
Right.
but there was more gas to that than a movie push.
Oh
He
man.
hit that wall, and he hit it hard. But that was important for that scene.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, and I'm glad you went that way because it was. You could tell it was him. It was authentic. It was real, and you felt for Brady. As much of a jerk as he was with what his decision was, earlier in the film, he did protect. He was trying to protect
Yeah.
the girls, and
Yeah, he steps up at the end.
he stepped up. He really did. Literally put his life on the line for them. And so he turned out to be a hero for me. I was like, all right,
Right.
Brady, you redeemed yourself.
He did.
Um, you know, um,
He got his neck broken, though.
oh gosh, man. Hey, real quick, Russell's coming in with a $5 super chat and just said, thank you, Russell. Says the first time I saw Donald was in the POW film, The Great Escape, when I was a teen.
Well, that's why I was so intimidated to meet Donald Pleasance, because
Hmm.
I knew of course, his performance with James Garner in The Great Escape, The Blind Escapee,
Hmm.
and that was a huge Steve McQueen movie. It's a classic,
Hmm.
and Donald had a very big part in it. And so I knew I was meeting Donald Pleasance. So I was intimidated, at first because
Yeah,
of that movie. And after
yeah,
I got to know Donald a little bit, we were able to talk about it. But yeah, he was. He'd also been in the Bond franchise.
that's right.
He was a bad guy, and
Hmm.
in those days, nothing was bigger than the Bond movies. Um,
Yes,
so he was definitely somebody that I was aware of because of The Great Escape.
yes. Well, and thank you, Russell. That's a very good point. And just to ask you about Donald one more time, then we'll keep moving. Um, but what was that very first interaction like when he shows up on set? The car pulls him up, how have you, and you see him for the first time in person walking up. What was that like?
how did I get here and how did I get so lucky? Kind of.
There you go.
I think I just felt like I can't believe I'm shooting Donald Pleasance in this. I mean, I was a film fan. I was fanboying out.
I bet.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
excited. I was excited.
Rightfully so. Now, one thing I want to mention too about Halloween 4 is when it comes to all of the openings, like for all 13 films, honestly, 4 it may just be my most favorite opening. If not, it's right up there at the top, top 2, 3, because I love the choices you made to start the movie. These great scenery shots. But they're also there's a sense of abandonment at the same time, because the way the shots themselves of the like the wagon, I think it was, with the pumpkin and everything in it, and one with the skeleton on the wall.
Well,
And
there's a good story behind those shots because everybody assumed that the title sequence was going to be the jack-o'-lantern, and
right.
we were going to push in on it and
Mhm.
run the credits. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And they're like, well, wait a minute. This is Halloween, and we're bringing back Michael Myers, and that's
Yeah.
a signature thing. It was, and John Carpenter's movie, it's beautifully done.
Mhm.
But I thought, no, let's not do that. And again, the room is looking at me with the same stunned kind of like, well, what do you want to do? And I had gone in and looked up some images from old agrarian Halloween, like what is the real root of this sort of autumnal ritual? And of course, I trick or treated as a kid, but going deeper than that. And you realize it's the end of the harvest, it's going into winter, it's an agrarian Scottish Irish tradition, but it is about death and decay and the end of the season and going into the cold and going into the dark. And there were a lot of images of scarecrows and of pitchforks that that I found in the library. I mean, in those days we had the thing called a library.
Yeah. Right.
I guess I would have Googled it now, but
Yeah.
and I started looking at these images. And I thought, that's what we should do. We should go back to farming and go back to, and you see in those pictures a lot of very scary instruments, pitchforks and
That's
metal
right.
objects, and they look frightening.
Yes.
They're just part of farming. They're not part of killing people. They're just farm utensils. And then we found these fallow fields outside of Salt Lake City.
Okay.
We went out there with just a little crew, and started to shoot these images. There's one of the scarecrow. He's got gloves on. You always see a scarecrow with the face and everything, but if you look closely, he's got gloves on, and it's weird and creepy. And there's another pumpkin man riding a tractor.
Yes, that's the one I was thinking of. That's the one.
He's creepy.
Very.
So I think by the time we get to the ambulance going up to the sanitarium, you've been put into a mood. You've been put into a place.
Yes.
And of course, people aren't quite expecting it because they're expecting the jack-o'-lantern, because that's a signature of the series, and a good one too. I have nothing against the jack-o'-lantern; it's good. But this, suddenly you're thinking, okay, well, what are they doing? What movie is this? So it's been very enjoyed, that opening.
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite. Like I said, it's literally one of my, if not my most favorite, because it does stand out. It's unique, it's different, and I feel like it's a great tone setter for the movie. Just
yeah, you kind of know where you are, and I have to say, you do feel the darkness coming, and you do feel the loneliness and the eerie, the descending of winter. You feel that in those shots, and so that was a nice. It's just one of those things. It just came out kind of the way I'd hoped it would.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I had to mention that to you, so I have a chance to talk to you about it I got to tell you, it was great. I think you did
Good.
an awesome job on that. Couple more, and then we're going to get to some natty knocks, and then we're going to get to your book.
Okay.
And so we're gonna keep moving here, but and we do have a couple more super chats, guys. Keep them coming. I do see them, so don't worry. Just hang tight. We're gonna get there. Now I have to ask you about the ending sequence.
Sure.
Because to this day, and I don't know how many times I've seen the movie. I've lost count, but I will tell you this: even watching it again, just literally a couple weeks ago, whenever on our Halloween fest. When that last sequence begins, when you see the POV of someone walking down the hall, and you have the little cutouts,
Sure.
the camera's view. Anyway, and then you see going into the room, the bathroom, hear the water, and then you hear the screaming.
Well, you see mom. You see mom there.
You see mom. That's right. You see mom in there.
Yeah.
And then whenever it cuts to the screaming and you see what Loomis, looking up and running, starting to run up the stairs, and then the shot, this shot that gives me chill bumps, and I'm not lying, it does, Dwight. I swear to you, every time I watch it, I get the chill bumps all over me.
It's creepy shit.
Oh my gosh, there's little Jamie, our little hero,
The sweetest girl in the world.
Yeah, the sweetest girl in the, and everywhere, anywhere. And there she is, scissors in hand, blood on her mask. She's wearing the Michael Myers children's clown mask. And oh my gosh. And then the minute you see her, oh my gosh, I'm not lying to you. You can't see them. I'm getting them now. You realize, like, whatever that connection with Michael was, she has it.
Yeah.
Like it's in her. And of course, Loomis is screaming. It makes it more haunting. No, the whole.
Well, let's talk about that. Two things about
Yes.
that. One is, of course, there is a great homage to the first movie. I mean,
Yes.
that's little Michael in that clown.
That's right.
Right. So that's
Mhm.
that. I mean, so in terms of story structure and script structure, it's perfect.
Yes.
I had a conversation, quite a conversation with Donald about this because, he knew this scene was coming up and it's a big finale and he had something planned that he wanted to do with Noah and he kept doing it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't giving me the goosebumps.
Mhm.
And I took him aside and I said, "Now, Donald," I said, "we have 3 or 4 of those and they're working great. Maybe we'll use one. But I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to do one where you go insane. Like the thought of Michael's evil transposing into this little girl starts you on the road to madness. I don't know what 5 or 6. I don't know what any of the other movies are going to be.
Mhm.
But this it breaks you. It splits you."
Mm.
And he says, "Well, I don't want to overact. I don't want to overact. I don't want it to be over the top. I don't want to overact." I said, "I understand. But now we've worked together for a minute. So you got to trust me. If you don't like this, we won't put it in. But I don't want to leave Salt Lake without having it.
Mhm.
So let's just make a gentleman's agreement. Let's have it and then see what works best."
Ooh,
And that was kind of mostly true what I said. but so we rolled the camera. I think it was just really in one take. He came in, and because he's such a great actor, he just suddenly allowed himself to let it go
Mhm.
and just stop being afraid and stop being afraid of being criticized for overacting or overdoing it. Or a lot of actors are afraid of too much,
Mhm. Mhm.
And then we rolled on that. He did the scene. No, 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 no. Oh my God. And we cut, and everybody there in the house was just stunned.
Mm.
You can imagine, like, what did we just see? We just saw
Yes.
Dr. Loomis dissemble before our eyes.
Wow.
And that is what makes the shot on top of the stairs even more
It does.
intense, because it's what he's seeing
Mhm.
that tells us what we're seeing. And so
Yes,
that combination, it's like, it's too much.
it is. Goosebumps. That's good.
Yeah,
Seriously, it's like
it was a nice balance. But I do want to take credit for some of that because I knew to push him. I knew he had it in him,
that's right.
but he was afraid. But I just pushed him to that last dark place, and I didn't tell him how to get there because you can't tell an actor
Sure.
what their process is, but you
Hmm.
can tell them what you're hoping for.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so thankful you took him aside and had that conversation because what we have there is it's golden and it is powerful,
It
powerful,
is. It
powerful.
is. It's good
And
stuff.
you're talking about like holding up. You're talking about Murder 1600, Halloween 4. I'm tell you what, that about holding up is incredible. That movie is the whole movie itself holds up, and but with that ending, even though I know it's going to happen, like I know what's about to happen, it does not change my emotional reaction to it.
Right. There's an interesting quality about that. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes. All right, guys, we're about to change gears because we're getting short on time, so we want to be respectful of Dwight's time tonight and not overextend here. So we've got a couple of super chats that have come in. That let's get to those.
All right.
We've got here we go. We've got Dr. Fantastic again. Thank you so much with a $5 super chat for the channel. It says question for
You
Dwight:
get
If
all the
you
slasher villains. Okay.
yeah, all of them together in a battle arena, unscripted. Who do you think would come out on top?
Well, Michael, obviously.
Right?
Because you're not going to bring him down. Oh, Freddie will take a shot, and Jason will take a shot, and you know, maybe Chucky will take a shot, and maybe Pinhead will take a shot,
Yeah.
or Leatherface will come towards us. But I think it's his relentlessness. I think it's Michael's.
Mhm.
He's like Jaws. He's like a shark. He'll just keep coming and coming and coming. So it's a funny question, but I mean, I know I'm prejudiced, of course, but I think it's going to be Michael.
Hey, listen, I think that's a safe bet to wager on if you're a gambling person. um, Also, real quick, we've got Scott coming in with a $50 super chat for
Oh
the
my goodness.
channel. Wow, thank you, Scott. I much appreciate that. Says Dwight, it's an honor to have you here. Thank you, Stephen. Halloween 4 was so well done on many levels, not just the story and characters, but the overall feel of returning Michael and Halloween itself. The care and research on the opening scene was amazing. Thank you.
And I'm glad we were able to speak about the opening scene.
Yes.
First of all, thank you, Scott. It means a lot. But we were able to talk about the opening, so I hope Scott heard all that. And
Yes.
how that did come to be a little bit, and how much care we took to put all that together. And I think what people feel in Halloween 4 is just these relationships. You know, the whole thing between Rachel and Brady is very real. I
Mhm.
mean, her boyfriend is kind of stepping out on her, and
Yep.
her feelings are hurt, and Kathleen Kinmont is, it's every man for himself. She's doing what she's got to do, and,
Yeah.
and so you're not. It's not you're in the mix of teenagers in a midwestern town, and it's happening. And the parents are going out,
Mhm.
and I think that all makes it. The reason it doesn't feel maybe dated, like you're saying, maybe the reason it holds up
Yeah.
is because those behaviors, those
Mhm.
human behaviors, they're not all on their iPhone. I guess it's dated in that way, but their human behaviors are very, very believable.
Yes. Relatable. So relatable to all of us to some degree. I think that's a good point because it holds up very well after all these years. It's great.
But anyway,
Scott,
thank you, Scott. I appreciate that.
yeah, Scott, we appreciate it, man. Thank you very, very much. And let's see here. Ghostface Fanatic has a 17-month anniversary of a channel membership. Thank you so much, man. Says, I'm so happy to be a part of the channel for 17 months. I have a question. What scares you the most? Ooh.
That's a good question. I don't know why, but and I'm not a particularly religious person,
Uh-huh.
but devil stuff scares the shit out of me. Going back to the first Exorcist, I don't know. There's something about demonic things
Yes.
that is just like a third rail for me. I can handle chainsaws and I can handle meat cleavers. I can handle all, but I don't know. I'm okay with ghosts. Ghosts I
Okay.
can manage. Ghosts okay, but demons scare me.
Ooh. Yeah.
I,
Yeah. I understand. I'm with you. I get it. I totally do. I don't watch any religious horror based demonic based horror. I don't.
it's
Nope.
not your play.
Not my thing. I give me a guy with a knife. I'll do it all slasher all day,
All day long.
all
I
day,
don't know
all
why
day.
that is, because as I said, I don't, I'm not particularly, inclined that way, and yet still, it freaks me out.
Sure, sure. Um, all right, guys, real quick. I just have to touch on there was more questions to ask, but you know what? Time is what it is, guys. That's okay. But we got to touch really fast, Dwight, if you have the time, real quick, to talk about Natty Knox. And this is such a great premise of the movie, for a movie, I should say. I was wondering how the opportunity came for you to direct the movie.
Well, it was very sudden because we were in the middle of COVID. It was early COVID, and
Mhm.
everybody's pretty restless, to be honest, sitting around without much to do. And some money came our way, and by say, I mean to this little company I have. Not a
Mhm.
lot, but a little bit of money came our way. And it was like, you know what? We should, instead of sitting around and feeling sorry for ourselves, we should make a deal with SAG and get, all the permissions. It was terrible with COVID, the masks and
Oh,
the testing kits, and you can imagine,
oh gosh, I can
how
imagine. Yeah.
difficult that was.
Ooh.
And but we made a deal with them, and then I just said, I'm going to get on the phone because I saw this script, and the hook for me was that Bill Moseley's character is the son of this faded B movie horror scream queen,
Hmm.
and he's traumatized by his mother's horror movies, and
Yes.
then goes out. She basically gets under his skin and eventually into his psyche and makes him go out and kill. And I thought, what an interesting, I
Mhm.
mean, I hate to use that word meta, but I guess I have to use it. Kind of a thought about a horror movie infecting a horror villain and his
Yes.
mother, which makes it even more complicated.
Yeah.
And so when I read this, okay, so I'm going to call Daniel Harris, I'm going to call Robert England, I'm going to say, guys, let's just go. Let's not overthink this. Let's go shoot something. And we went up to Fillmore, California, which is not far, but it has a small town feel.
Mhm.
And so we went very quickly to put this movie together. And when we got Bill Moseley to play Abner Honeywell, who's the name of the stalker killer, he is so fascinating. And even Natty Knox, the actress who played, well, there are two actually. There's one that plays her when she's the young
Mhm.
movie star, and then the
Mhm.
old prostitute who's fallen on hard times. And I don't know. I was fascinated with it, and I just, we got to go out and shoot these little Roger Corman sort of B movies.
Yeah.
We do one with kind of a seance, these monk like
Yes.
seance. We did one. We did a slasher stalker guy coming out of the woods, and so we were doing these little 70s throwback, almost like what was the one about Maniac Cop kind of
Maniac Cop. There you go. Yeah.
something in that school of B movie.
Hmm.
And and then we got this wonderful leading babysitter named Charlotte Fountain Hardim, who was fairly inexperienced, but I called her my Laurie Strode because she was the babysitter, and she's
Yes,
a wonderful actress and did a great job.
she
And
did.
and so I just, if people want to see something on Halloween or anytime,
Hmm.
you know, check out this movie because you'll have a really good time. It's not Saw. I mean, one of the critics said, because of heredity, or is hereditary?
Hereditary.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because of that, and because of Saw, and because of Terrifier 2,
Oh yeah.
horror now. This isn't harsh enough. It's not gory enough.
Ugh.
But I didn't actually want to do that.
No,
Um,
I'm good.
and I just wanted to have it again be about the characters and
That's right.
the relationships in the town, and that has a fun ending too. The
Hmm.
the act I won't say what it is, but the actress plays it really, really well. And so I hope people will give it a chance. You can see it on Amazon or Vudu or Tubi. Everything's everywhere now.
It is. It really is.
Or you can get a DVD even, or a Blu-ray.
There you go. Even yeah, that's the way to go too. If you're into physical media, guys.
It's out there. It's at Walmart, or you can order it online. I know it. I think it's at Best Buy. Some of those box stores.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely, guys. If you haven't seen Natty Knox, definitely check it out. It's Dwight's most recent horror film, and again, Danielle Harris and Robert England and Bill Moseley. You're talking about some great folks in this film, and I'm so. How was it working with Robert England again? What was that? What was that like?
Well, it was a little bit fun for us because we just got to tell old war stories about Phantom of the Opera, but
Right.
so that was fun. But it was really fun to just work with him as an actor, and
Yeah.
he wasn't playing a monster. In fact, he's sort of on the other side of Bill
True.
Moseley in this movie,
True.
and
Yeah.
just to watch him be the actor, I call him. He's now become like the John Houseman part of it. I don't know if you remember the beginning of John Carpenter's The Fog, but John
Mhm.
Houseman's at the campfire with all the kids, and
Mhm.
he tells the story of the ship that crashed, and how the story of
Mhm.
the fog and all the pirates and all that. And John Houseman was a great, great actor who also had been Orson Welles' early producer. So he has an unbelievable film pedigree. And I thought, I'm going to use Robert the way John Carpenter used John Houseman, where he's a horror legend, but I'm
Mhm.
not using him to kill anybody. I'm using him to set the table. And he tells the story of Natty Knox. And my God, you just can't take your eyes off. It's 4
Mhm.
pages of dialogue,
Yeah.
but I don't know who else could do that and just hold your attention the way he did. So anyway,
Yes.
that was great fun.
So good. That's amazing. So good. Um, so guys, yeah, be sure and check out Natty Knox if you have not already seen it. And if you have rented it, rent it again. Tomorrow's Halloween. And
Yeah,
listen, and I always say this, Dwight, all the time. If we want to continue to see horror movies made, good movies made, we need to support the ones that are being made. We need to watch them. We need to rent them, buy them.
right. Keep
Let's
it going.
keep it going. That falls on us as the audience, guys. Let's do our part so that we can keep seeing good movies and
Good.
see Dwight make more great films for us to enjoy. Um, and real quick, we got one last super chat to get to here, and then we'll close up with your book, and then we'll call it a show. Um, Eduardo sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you. He says, any advice for a film director with no film school background trying to make it in the horror indie community?
Well, that's a good question. Now, that is really a nice segue into the book, because I do go into a lot of details about making it in the business and,
Mhm.
and all that. The book is called Still Rolling. We can talk about it. But
Sure.
specifically, I would say that you want to do a short. You, by hook or by crook, find out exactly what do you have. Do you have a location? Do you have an uncle who's a really good actor, but nobody knows it? Like, do you have access to maybe some car, the creepiest, weirdest car you've ever seen? Like, think about where you live, who you know, like, what do you have? And I think that's really the place to start. Let's say that the neighbor has a creepy as hell barn, and this it's a barn,
Yeah.
whatever. And you talk to the neighbor and you said, "You could I bring us some people over here and shoot a little movie in your barn?" And the guy says, "Well, if you don't get in my way and if it's on the weekends, you can shoot in my barn." Let's say. And then you say, "Okay, what else do I have? I have, this guy I know who's an actor." So you put together what pieces do you have,
Hmm.
and then write a script exactly for what you have. 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and lean into the things you already have. Like, imagine if you were Stephen King and you had Christine in your garage, if you had the
Yep.
car for, like, what if you just had, what if your brother-in-law is an old car dude and has an old, who knows what it is,
Hmm.
and get that short made so that you have something to show,
Hmm.
and then start writing your first really low budget movie that maybe you can scrape together some funding for, that you can, again, with what it is that you have. So that's my advice. Don't write the movie that's in your dreams or the movie that you've always wanted to make, because that may be out of reach. Um, be practical, and it could be as simple as right out. If you live in the city, there's an alley out the door. If you live in the country, there's a path in the woods, something that scares you, depending on where you live and what you have.
That's awesome advice. That's really good advice. Of all the guests I've had the pleasure and honor of having, when this type of question comes up, and I usually ask that too, I've never heard that specific answer, and that is really smart. And I think that makes a lot of sense. It really does.
Well,
That's yeah.
I think it'll be helpful for people. I think.
Yes, for sure. Great advice, Eduardo. Thank you for your super chat. Great question. And I know there's probably a lot of folks here that are wondering that, and so they got to hear that amazing response as well from Dwight. Now, Dwight, before we say goodnight for today, I would love to ask you more about your book, Still Rolling, Inside the Hollywood Dream Factory. And my moderators have been putting links to Amazon.com with your actual book link so they can purchase it now. So I want to let everyone know, as Dwight tells us real quickly about it, you can literally go now and purchase it while you're watching this. And let's support Dwight in his authorship efforts here as an author. So, my moderators, if you could place that right now for me in the chat so you guys can click it while you're watching. Dwight, tell us real quick, what would people expect when they get your book?
Well, the real quick story is I was doing some lectures in the evening down at UCLA, just as a guest lecture. And I looked out over the audience, and there were so many interested people who want to make a short or want to make a feature, or they want to get in, they have so many questions. I only had 45 minutes, and it wasn't enough to even start. So I thought, well, that's how it started. I thought, well, what if I write this down? Advice. And then as I started to write it, I thought, well, what's also interesting is not, because I do talk about lighting and blocking and distribution and directing actors. So there's a how-to aspect to it, but there's also a storytelling aspect to it, where I really explain the journey from film school, trying to make your way into the business. And I think the thing is, how do you sustain a career? Like, maybe you get your first film made, but how do you actually do it for 40 years? That's a very different question. And the book is loaded, I think, with nuggets. And so I'm perfectly happy to plug my book, because I do
Absolutely.
I think it's a good read. It's not too long. There's a lot of good illustrations, and it'll tell you about working with movie stars and TV stars and agents and managers and lawyers and studio heads, and
Ooh,
it's a very complicated world. And I think might help people just get an idea of because a DVD. There's a lot of things that are behind the scenes that people have access to, but those are really promotional, and you have to understand those are built for promotion.
mm-hmm.
So a book like this is really a window, a third eye into this filmmaking thing, and I'm not promoting a particular TV show or movie. So I think it's a little more
Yeah,
honest.
for sure. No, that's wonderful. Guys, really, the link is there. Click that. It takes you right to the Amazon checkout. Look, Dwight didn't ask me to put it in Amazon or Barnes and Noble. I just went and did Amazon, and it came up, and I said, "This is the one I'm going to put in." So
That's it. Well, that's a good, reliable company for sure.
it is. It is. So definitely check that out. Also, you can check out Dwight's website, dwightlittodirector.com. You can go check him out there. Also, and you can follow him on Instagram. And we've got a link in the chat coming up now for his Instagram. Be sure and go follow him over there and stay in the loop with what's going on, because you never know when we may get an announcement of a new movie. I'm just saying, you never know. You want to be
Right.
you want to be on top of things.
That's
So
right.
that's right. So there's his Instagram. Just click that link; it'll take you right to it. And it's Dwight Little 8mm. That will take you to his Instagram. Follow him there. All right. So be sure and do all those things, guys. Let's support Dwight. And again, thank you so much, Dwight, for tonight. This was such a treasure and a treat. And I want to thank you for coming and spending this time with us tonight.
Well, I hope your audience enjoyed it, and yeah, it was happy to do it, and good luck with Craving Something Scary. It sounds like you guys are doing good.
Thank you. We're having a lot of fun and enjoying it. And you just enrich that experience for us.
Maybe it'll grow and grow and grow and grow.
There we go. I'll receive that. Yes. Let's
You'll
keep
be
going.
Joe Rogan before you know it.
That would be awesome. I wouldn't turn that down for sure. Well, listen, Dwight, you hang tight. I'll meet you backstage in just a second.
Okay.
But for everyone in the audience, we're going to call it a night. Again, we want to thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who gave a super chat tonight to help the channel out. Great questions. And we will see you all soon. And have a happy Halloween, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, or maybe in about an hour or two for some of you. So we'll see you guys soon. Take care. Good night, everyone.